Russia's invasion of Ukraine has disrupted the global economy, sparked fears of world war, and pumped gas prices to record highs. There are personal costs as well. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Aside from the lives already lost in the fighting, the conflict in Ukraine has revealed a conflict of interest at the heart of an increasingly common practice. Writing recently at The Atlantic, Alison Motluk describes how in recent years, Ukraine has become an international surrogacy hub. Prospective parents from the U.S., China, Germany, Australia, and other countries have rushed to take advantage of Ukraine's lax surrogacy laws, hiring less wealthy women there to gestate their children. By some estimates, around 2,500 such arrangements are made each year in Ukraine. One large fertility clinic in Kyiv reported that they expect 200 surrogate babies to be born in the next 3 months. None of the intended parents of those babies foresaw a Russian invasion. Like COVID did in early 2020, this war has disrupted the supply chain, something you say out loud until you realize the product is a human being. In the last few weeks, surrogate mothers across Ukraine have been forced to choose between doing what's right for themselves and their families and following the contractual demands of paying parents that are thousands of miles away. Many of these women have refused to move since that would separate them from loved ones in harm's way. Others fled after the clinics in charge of their pregnancy shut down. Still others are debating whether to seek refuge in other countries, knowing that their baby's legal status and ultimate fates would be uncertain. As Motluk writes, some people in wartime can turn all of their attention to family in the war effort, but surrogates cannot. Even if they defy pleas to go to places of safety, they carry their work with them inside their body. The reality is that the interests of the surrogate and the interests of the parents don't always align. War just makes that much more stark. Now, of course, there's a third party whose interests aren't often considered, particularly in this kind of media coverage. The unborn babies. Where are their rights? What say do they have in all of this? Who will they call mommy and daddy? If they make it to their intended buyers, what will they think of being the result of a risky commercial transaction? And if they don't make it, quote unquote, home, what fate awaits them? Maybe something similar to the dozens of surrogate babies stranded in Ukraine in 2020 after COVID-19 hit. Now, all of this reveals just one of the central problems with our limited ethical deliberations over artificial reproductive technologies, such as surrogacy, especially surrogacy across national borders and between people from disparate socioeconomic backgrounds. We tend to assume best-case scenarios. Moral dilemmas, however, rarely happen in the best-case scenario. That's just not how the world works. The hardest decisions we make in life are during times of chaos and conflict, when illness, financial hardship, family trouble, or war make it incredibly hard to do the right thing or to even know what the right thing is. We've approached surrogacy as if the women contracted to carry the children are always informed, never under financial pressure, protected by contracts that can handle extenuating circumstances like war and pandemics, that the wishes of the intended parents will never conflict with their best interest, that no lasting emotional bonds to the baby will be formed, that no coerced abortions will ever happen, and of course, that no one's country is invaded. When any of these assumptions prove wrong, a terrible human cost is exacted. Recently, my colleague Shane Morris interviewed pro-life author and speaker Stephanie Gray Connors on his Upstream podcast about her new book, Conceived by Science. The book and the conversation details the ethical problems with both in vitro fertilization and surrogacy. One of the principles Stephanie emphasizes is that good desires don't justify immoral actions. It's natural for couples to want children of their own and tragic when they can't conceive or carry them. Still, that's not a license to bring children into the world by any means, including by technologies that treat children as a commercial product or another human as a supplier, or which abandons children or so-called excess embryos. The unfolding crisis for surrogate mothers in Ukraine is a sad reminder of what happens when people are treated as instruments rather than image bearers, as means instead of ends. But ultimately, it's the children who always pay for our failed transactions. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.